This is Scoreboard with Chris Titley. Powered by Swiftex. Where can crypto take you?
Hi, it's Chris Titley here on today's episode of Scoreboard, the podcast. I am joined by Matt Flynn. Matt, thank you so much for being part of the series.
G'day, Chris, and thank you very much for having me, mate.
Matt, we're sitting here late Jan in 2026. How's your 2026 shaped up so far, and maybe some plans or some goals?
Mate, it's been good so far. We've obviously had a lot of turnover here at West Coast, so it's been an exciting period of time. We've had a new fitness coach come in. We've built a little bit on the back of what Mini implemented at the end of 2025 and through that season, mate. So 2026 has been exciting so far. A lot of new faces, a lot of new ideas, and so far, mate, my goal at the moment is to stay fit and healthy to the start of the season, and then hopefully build on the season I had last year, where I was able to string together the most games that I've played. So yeah, that's where I'm at the moment.
Mate, staying fit and healthy is easier said than done. I'm curious on what your mindset of having so much sort of injury and resilience during your life, what the plan is and to stay fit and healthy.
Yeah, it's a funny one. I think early on in my career, I did have a lot of injuries, and for me, in the back of my mind, I was always confident in my body as there was never injuries that were reoccurrent. There were a lot of contact injuries or one-off injuries that were actually quite strange. So I was never actually saw myself as an injury-prone person, even though I was copying 10-month injuries at a time. So a lot with that mindset was a good thing to be able to know that once I got on the park and crossed off a little bit of bad luck that my body would hold up. And then in cahoots with the fitness boss and the physios, just working on a few deficiencies in my game and in my body to help me stay out there for as long as possible. So, mate, a lot of the mental side just to keep myself, I guess, present in the moment with it, and then, yeah, with the medical staff as well to keep me rolling.
And when it comes to an off season, it's, like go, intense, and then sort of have a little bit of a break. What do you guys get up to in the off season? Do you switch off? Do you go for a holiday? Do you kind of like not think about footy, not think about your body a little, or is it always a little bit on?
It's definitely always on. I think the first couple of weeks at the end of the season is the moment you can switch off and really unwind. In saying that, though, for us this year, there was still finals going on. So footy was still around. But I think as soon as finals wrapped up and there is no football to tune into, you really have a moment to yourself to decompress, spend some time with your loved one, with your friends and your family. And I had a couple of weddings overseas this year, which was really nice. So I got over there and really relaxed, and then with one eye on 2026 and getting the body right for that. So there's a little bit of both, mate. But yeah, there is definitely some time to decompress, which I made the most of.
When it comes to your relationship with AFL and footy, how would you describe it, and how's that changed over the course of your career?
I think I'm pretty relaxed with it. I'm not sure my partner would say the same. I think she thinks I'm a little bit uptight when it comes to it, but I do think that I am someone that enjoys to watch footy. I'm happy to have it on, but I'm also happy to not tune in if that's what I'm feeling. I guess, relationship with my career is a funny one too. You try to do everything you can to be an ultimate professional 24/7, but there is a moment too where it's nice to switch off from it and be a normal human and go down and relax a little bit more and take your mind off it. So it is a funny balance, but I think I've got a good relationship with it now, and it's something I've probably had to build over my last 10 years in the system of not playing football, results not going my way, not getting picked in that, and you've had to really, I guess, create that, relaxed environment around. Otherwise, it becomes all-consuming, and it's not a good place to be.
And you talk about being in the system for 10 years, but then
to, I guess, not only on the field, but the group off the field and what I brought there. So that was really nice. It does bring a level of calm when you do feel like you might maybe pick the following week as opposed to stressing each week. And that is something this year that I guess I was able to have a few more times than not. There was a couple of times I got dropped that does challenge that, but in a whole, to play the 18 and to have a little bit more level of calm and continuity is a really good refresher for the nervous system, I think.
Yeah, and then coming towards the back end of those repetitive games and being and traveling and being part of the AFL system and getting involved, your confidence as a player. Do you want to talk about how that changed?
Yeah, definitely. I think as a player, you go through, I guess, a lot of different phases to your career, and you go through a stage where you just want to play, and then you go through a stage where you want to play well, and then you get to this funny stage where you actually don't mind how you play. You just want the team to play well and help those around you. And I think this was probably the first year that I felt that, where I was able to go away from my own performance in a bit and look into how I could influence people around me, be that through some communication, some leadership, whatever it may be. And that gave me a lot of confidence this year going forward and how my mindset changed. I was able to get that confidence through knowing that it wasn't so much about my own performance, it was about helping those around me. And that really took a weight off my shoulders, I think.
Yeah, and then from a coach's point of view and the team dynamics point of view about knowing your role within the team and then also understanding what you need to do in that team to make it successful, or at least to kind of be in most games. How did you go with that, I suppose, versus like just trying to individually do the best you possibly can just to get picked and just to be selected and to get on contract lists, etc.?
Yeah, it's funny because as much as you want to play as well as you can every single week, and that's your number one priority, having that, I guess, bigger lens and understanding some ins and outs of the team and of some other players around you just feels like makes you feel like you can contribute in another way. I think when you're just so worried about performing well, you don't have a kick or a mark in the first 10, 15 minutes, all of a sudden you start to worry. Whereas if you don't have a kick in the first 10 or 15 minutes, but you can help someone else get a kick, or you can put a block on for someone to take a mark, or you can win a hit out to help someone get a touch there, that helps you out in that sense. So having that broader lens of helping the others around you does shift your perspective a bit, and it kind of takes the light, I guess, away from just your own kicks and handballs.
Yeah, and the statistics, and then evolving as a player in terms of your skill set and what you're doing as a player. What have you worked on in the last little while to kind of make you a bit more versatile? And I suppose in those positions that maybe you land in, and people go, "Oh wow, there's Matt Flynn. He's open and he's taking a mark and he's kicking a goal to get there."
Yeah. I think early in my career, my running capacity was something I really had to work at. And now it's quite funny. I'm not quick by any means, but my meters per minute are always in a pretty good spot for a ruckman. I always seem to cover the ground that grind pace for at a decent amount. So that's been a big work on for me, and that's allowed me to get to more contests, to be able to influence in the air, take some more contested marks, impact behind in front of the football. That's my big focus this year too, is to I guess, play a little bit more like Darcy Cameron and influence in the air a bit more. He gets ahead and behind the footy really strongly. So he's someone that I've looked a lot at in his running patterns and how I can maximise my aerobic capacity to influence the game in that area. So, mate, that running ability is, although it's not something that I'm quick with, it's something that I'm able to keep up the game with.
Yeah, and then it comes to stats and data and all the heart rates and kilometers run, etc. How do you go with all that?
Yeah, mate, I love it. I'm always in there talking to the GPS analysts about my Ks that week, or my rapid accelerations, or my top speed, or those kind of things. And it is a bit funny because my GPS numbers aren't the best, and all the midfielders, we all have a laugh about it, my sprint meters and whatnot. We always have a bit of a laugh about where I'm at. But I do love having a look and comparing myself to where I was this time last year, or what a game load might look like, and all those kinds of things. And our GPS guys are great. They've got all that data over the last few years, and they can compare it to, I guess, in game and in preseason and where I'm sitting. And mate, I love that stuff.
Yeah, no, and then from a point of view of like looking at week versus month versus year, how do you go about just bringing things back to perspective?
Yeah, it's funny. I think I'm definitely at the moment trying to be a lot more day by day. I think if I get too big on it, I do get worried, and I do start comparing and think, oh, if I'm not here there, then I'm probably falling behind, or I might be ahead. And you never really know where you are until you're in the situation playing or training against everyone else. So it is nice to compare it to everything else and compare it to last year and see where I'm at, or compare my running loads in game to make sure I'm covering the same speeds and same distances. But to get it back into perspective for myself, it's just, I guess, getting back into training and actually putting that data into practice, and I guess analysing each session as it is and taking it on its merits.
And then from outside of data and footy, etc., are there things off the field that you're doing a little bit differently, or are you doing the same? You're trusting your own process, or is there some other things that you go, actually, this has materially helped my performance on the field?
Mate, a big thing for me last year was consistency, and that was actually a theme that I spoke with our sports psych early in the year. And it wasn't just an on-field thing; it was a theme that I wanted to, I guess, bleed through my whole life, and had to do with my uni study, about what I did in my days off, my sleep routines, my diet, my friendships. It was all about consistency, and I found that actually fed into my football life really well. I guess I always thought live by a quote like if you can't do something all the time. Like you'll never be able to do it for on the footy field. So I always believed that if I wasn't able to be consistent off the field, I wouldn't be able to do it on the field. So that was something I really, I guess, practiced off field, and that really helped me on field.
Yeah, and consistency in particular habits or consistency you wanted to improve in your life?
More habits, more habits. So there's things like I got back to meditation, a bit of journaling. Always like started going for on my days off. I found that I got a little bit, I guess, static on my days off, and I wouldn't do as much. So just make sure I got a walk in, and a big thing for me. I'm a very social person, so on my days off, making sure I got one or two social connections to just keep that going. And I found that consistency in my habits more so than picking things up. It's more just doing the things day in day out.
Yeah, and then when it comes to things like sleep, and that's been talked about a lot in terms of sleep tech and sleep and the different times of games and different venues, etc. You have to adjust it accordingly, and maybe your meals you have to adjust. Have you worked out
Yeah.
some sort of like routine?
I have. I think being in WA is actually a funny one because you have your time difference every time you travel. So that's actually a little bit different. I guess your body clocks are a little bit different to what it is when you're in Melbourne as compared to when you're in WA. And especially at the moment with daylight savings, it's 3 hours behind. In saying that, though, I think I've taken a lot of pressure off those things. And when I was younger, I used to worry about it and used to be, okay, 6 hours before a game, I'll have this, and 3 hours, I'll do this, and an hour out, I'll do this. Whereas now it's if I'm tired, I'll have a sleep. If I'm hungry, I'll eat. If I'm feeling good, I'll go for a walk. But now it's more just about listening to my body.
Are you still nervous?
Oh yeah, mate. I don't think that'll ever go away. Still go out there, and especially when you're playing at the MCG and you're running up the tunnel and you look outside, and it's you still get those butterflies.
And what do you do to alleviate that, or is that a healthy thing? You're okay with that? You just move on and sort of get to the flow.
Yeah, I think it talks about something I spoke about just a bit earlier about getting present. I used to get over aroused, and we talk about your arousal levels in performance. I actually used to get over aroused, and I didn't realize I was, and I actually started crashing really early, either before games or in the first quarter, and I never realized that's what I was doing. So I'd have more caffeine and more energy and more lollies to I thought had to get myself up. And I soon learned after some conversations with the sports psych that it was actually taking a breath, becoming present, and bringing myself back down was the way that I self-regulated those nerves. And I found myself having a lot more energy by actually slowing myself down rather than pumping myself full of caffeine and sugar to get myself back up.
And then when you've taken the mark and you're in front of goal and there's a whole lot of silence around, what's going through your brain?
Try not to turn it over, mate, or look for the handball, look for the runner coming past me. That's something that I've always done. Is like I try to calm my mind as much as I can, but I know what my one wood is, and it's in the air. And kicking's not a strength of mine, so mate, I do actually go through the process and look at my options and go, okay, there's a long down the line kick. Maybe there's an open switch I might go for. 45 is not something I'll look for, but if there's a runner that's coming past me, that's one I'll definitely look for. So it's about, I guess, calming yourself down, getting in that moment and actually assessing your options more than just rushing through it.
And then when it comes to like the belief in your own process and trust the process and coach's process, etc., how have you gone with that? And has your process changed over the course of your career? I mean, you did move clubs, obviously. We can talk about that in a second, but more along the lines of like, I know I'm a good AFL player. I know I'm comfortable. I know what I'm capable of. Things sometimes haven't gone my way.
Yeah, it's quite funny you say that. I think it is something that I have always trusted my process and I have always believed in it. But I think as you get older, you start to understand that. And I think when I did get dropped down to the waffle, I kept my same processes. It wasn't like something where I was like, okay, I've got to go and dominate here. I've got to do this differently. I've got to do this differently. I was like, no, just go about the same way. Enjoy your football, stay present, help others around you, and the rest will work out for itself. And when I was able to go down to the waffle and play some good football, I was able to understand that my processes did work. And like you said, you start to build a bit of belief that you can play some really good AFL football. It's just, for me, it hasn't clicked every single game or every single week or every single year. But you do have a lot of belief that the processes you put in place do actually materialize into good games in moments. And it's just about doing that more regularly.
And where does fun come into it? Are you still having fun? Do you have fun most of the time, or is it too serious with all the money and all the pressure and the Instagram and all that sort of stuff?
Now, it's definitely something that I come back to. And I think there's moments in the year and moments in your career and that you definitely aren't having as much fun, and you are worried about performance, or you're worried about how other people are seeing you, or you might see a media article about yourself or whatever it may be. But I've had to be really, I guess, open with myself and really honest with that, and actually come back to that fun aspect, because at the end of the day, footy is just a game, and the reason that we play is because we love it. So coming back to that fun aspect is actually a massive part of the game for me. And I think if you prepare well and you do all your training and your routines and stay consistent with that in a really professional manner, game days is where you can have fun and everything can just flow.
And then when you prepare the best you possibly can in a big game, and you're marking your opponent, you've done all the data, you've done all the study, and you feel like you're really, really good, and then there's things just don't go your way. How do you go with dealing with that? And when you're like, hold on a second, I've done everything I possibly can, but just came up short.
Yeah, I think that's when you got to come back to one thing that can't be taken away from you. And for me, that's my voice. And I think whatever level that may be at, if it's an AFL, if it's at Waffle, like, doesn't matter how I'm playing or what's going on around me, my communication, my voice is always going to be in my control. And that's, I think, a mindset thing. The amount of kicks you have, or how your opponent's going, or if you get picked or not, that's out of your control. But the voice for me and my mindset is one thing that can't be taken away. So that's one thing I really hone back in. If I feel like I'm not going well, it's okay. Like, Harley, how are you going? I'll chat to him. I'll get him involved. TK, how are you feeling in the midfield? Are we doing the right thing? Jackie Waterman up front, like, what's going on? How are you feeling up front there? And it's all about staying involved in your voice. And I feel like that just brings you back to the team.
When did you start thinking about that your voice was important, as being in the centre of the ground, or being potentially a leader in the organisation? 10 years, leader in your team.
Yeah, well, Shane Mumford was someone I learnt from a lot of the Giants, and he used to ride me so hard on that. He used to always be like, I can't hear you, I can't hear you, I can't hear you. And I'll be like, mate, I'm talking. And sooner or later, I learned that it wasn't just about talking, it was about demanding others, and also being a little bit, I guess, intimidating for the opposition. If everyone's talking, the opposition starts thinking like, oh gosh, what's going on here? How come they're all so organised? And I think coming across the West Coast, as you said, I was a little bit older. It was a younger group. I couldn't like rely on someone else to bring the voice. And someone like Elliot Yeo, who got injured, so he wasn't able to be out there as much. Jeremy McGovern, when he first got there, he got injured, so he wasn't able to bring the voice as much. All of a sudden, before I knew it, I was one of the top 10 older guys on the track, and that made me realise that if I didn't bring it, no one would. So I guess that's part of it, mate. It was, my early learnings at the Giants with Shane Mumford, but then just a realisation of, oh my God, I'm not the 18-year-old kid anymore. I'm a 27-year-old senior player.
And then that move from GWS to West Coast, can we talk about how that felt in regards to just the unknown about packing yourself up and going west, and almost a little bit of a refreshing start, but also notwithstanding what you've done at the Giants?
Yeah, it was difficult. I think I had a lot of relationships with the Giants. I was a part of the Giants Academy from under 12s all the way through to when I was 25, I think, when I left. So you have a lot of relationships there, not just at the club, but in the organisation. And, mate, it was really difficult. I knew no one over in West Coast at the time. I had a couple of mates that had moved here, but that was about it. And me coming across here in the first day, I was absolutely, not in a good spot. I was pretty nervous about starting, but it was good for me. It was a decision I had to make for my career and for my livelihood going forward. And I don't regret a part of it. I love it over in WA at the moment. I love the club, and I've made some amazing connections here. But mate, yeah, it was a difficult change, but it was one that I'm really happy I did.
Did it feel a bit awkward at the start, but now obviously the players and the team and the coach, you're starting to understand their style, which may have been a little different?
Yeah, it was very awkward, I think. And I also came to West Coast at a time where Simo was obviously on the way out, and the year we had a lot of older players that were injured, and a lot of those guys have moved on now. So it was a very awkward time when I came across, I guess, in that sense. But now I've settled in really well. There's got a big influx of only young players, but guys around my age, and Liam Baker, Jack Graham, Brendan Starcevic, Matty Yowies, these kind of middle-aged guys that have come across as well and changed the, I guess, feeling of the club. And then you put in that with some guys that have been here for a long time, like Tom Cole, Liam Duggan, who are premiership players. That just is starting to make the place feel a little bit more, I guess, whole in a sense. But no, mate, it was an awkward change, but it is definitely on the right trajectory.
In 2026, coming up to a big year, is there a goal for 2026? Is there something in your mind, a team goal, an individual goal? And how do you think about a season where, you may have not played finals for a bit, but like, is the goal to make finals, or is the goal to win a particular number of games, or is the goal just to get the best out of the team?
Yeah, individually, I haven't really set a target as of yet. I need to actually sit down and go through that. I am a big goal setter, and at the moment, I've got a few goals from my preseason that I've tried to get after that are in really good shape, and that a lot around, I guess, body composition and fitness and metrics and those kind of things that are in good areas. And then I guess the next step for me is to work out my season goals and where they sit. Collectively as a group, we've spoken a lot about where we want to be and haven't really put a number of games or wins as our ceiling or as our floor. It's about progress and about getting better. I think we're definitely setting our sights for, if we don't make finals this year, we're definitely making finals next year. And I think that's our view at the moment is 2026, there's no view, there's no ceiling, there's no floor, but we're playing finals in 2027. And if we play 2026, amazing, but we're going after that year.
Mhm. Darcy Gardner talked about when the Lions were on the wooden spoon about the metrics that they looked at to like lose by less, or like there's a few, and compare yourself to top 4 and top 8 teams, and if you're slowly incrementally moving in the right direction wherever you finish on the table, that's a win. Is that sort of something that you guys are thinking about a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of metrics such as time in forward half, time in front, time in possession, stoppage meters, all these kind of KPIs that account to wins and premierships. And we did the same thing. We compared ourselves to top 4, top 8 teams and where we all sat. And if we looked at, I guess, a half of football or 3/4 of football, we actually were really competitive or in front in a lot of those metrics throughout the year. So that was I guess, a really big positive for the group. And the thing for a young group was not so much the physical side of things, but the concentration. We had massive concentration lapses where we wouldn't be in structure and whatnot. We did a lot of work on that. So yeah, those metrics about time in forward half, transition from inside 50 to D50 and how quickly we can move the ball, forward half turnovers. These are massive metrics that we've looked at, and compared to the top 4 teams last year, we sit in a really good spot for 75% of the game. It's just about bridging that gap by 5%.
Yeah, and then when it comes to those metrics, and let's say you feel like you're doing well, but then you might lose by 6, how quickly does it take you to move on from a loss? And how have you evolved with that sort of feeling over the last 10 years or so?
Yeah, it's definitely, it stings for a good amount of time, like 1 or 2 days after. I think one thing last year, which was different to my first year here, was that the losses really hurt. Whereas I think in our first year, it was almost like, oh, well, that's another one, that's another one, that's another one. Whereas last year, when we were very competitive, it felt like that one went missing, that one slipped, and boys were really bitter about it, which I think is a really good spot to be. But you are right. In footy is a funny game. You get the following week to back it up and go again, and you learn a lot in a 24, 25 game season, whatever it is. You learn a lot in your reviews, and to be able to put that into practice and continually see improvement is something that we really went after.
And Matt, we've got a sponsor for Scoreboard, and that's SwiftX. And SwiftX has got over 1.5 million users in Australia and New Zealand. It's Australia's most trusted cryptocurrency platform. And as part of their partnership, we do a little segment called the Bucket List. And that is a sporting event that you haven't attended thus far live that you would love to attend. I'm curious, Matt Flynn, what your sporting event would be if you were to attend live.
Mate, I think I'm going to have to say the Masters. I think a lot of people say the Super Bowl, and that's one that I'd absolutely love to get to. But I feel like the prestige of the Masters would be one that would be pretty special.
And you're a golfing fan?
I enjoy it, mate. I'm not a huge fan by any means, but I think it's more the prestige and mystique around it would be the thing that I'd love to see.
We also have another partner in PocketSmith, and PocketSmith is the personal finance app for the household budget, the CFO of the household to track your net wealth and see your spending habits, etc. And they've got over 80,000 Aussies in Australia that have downloaded their app. And Matt, I'm curious to know about budgeting and sporting and money and everything. Are you a budgeter, and are you the CFO or household?
Mate, I'd like to claim to be the CFO, but I think my partner, I think she's the one in charge when it comes to it. But, mate, we are big budgeters. Moving across to WA, we were able to buy our first place, and that came with its own challenges. So, factoring a mortgage into the budget was a bit harder than it was previously in Sydney when I was only renting. But, mate, big budgeter, using Excel spreadsheets at the moment, so I might have to jump across. But, mate, it's something that we love.
Yeah, no, excellent. That's great, mate, that you do that, because it is important, and there's lots of things and outgoings and ingoings and car repairs and you name it. And a big shout out to Pocketsmith there if you want to download it.
Mate, I might need them. I tell you, there's so many things pop up that you don't realise, so it would come in handy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, another question I ask my guests is their all-time favourite sporting moment, and I preface this as it doesn't include yourself.
Mate, it's funny. It doesn't actually involve me, but in 2012, my local football club won the first premiership in 20-odd years, and I was able to be there. My old man was the secretary at the time. So, mate, hugely involved with the Narendra Football Club, and that moment back in 2012 as a little 17-year-old was my favourite moment that I can remember.
Just going back to that in terms of your club and some early club shout-outs, have you got some people when you're growing up playing footy that you remember deeply and that affected you deeply? I'd love to kind of extract a few memories here.
Yeah, mate, definitely. I think, as I mentioned, my old man was a big player at the club. He wasn't a great player, but he was a big in the off-field scenario. He was a treasurer, he was a secretary, he was a president there for a while. But there was Zach Williams is a local from Narendra. He's at Carlton now, and mate, he was one of the best on ground that day actually for Narendra in 2012. So he was awesome. Timmy Ruffles played for Fremantle back in the day for a couple of games, so he was another name. And then I guess the ones that had an impact on my career outside of my old man, of course, were a bloke named Sean Brooker, who did a lot of work with the academies, who helped me through the draft combine, did a lot of training there to help me. Jamie Grinnell was another one. He was a coach of the town at the time, and he was a gun local player and a good family friend of ours now. And he did a lot of work with me on my kicking and just conversations in general about what entailed to be a good footballer. So, mate, there's some big names back there that really helped me along the way. And one day I'll end up back at Narendra playing a few games for sure. So I love it.
Mate, that's so good. And I love how sport has been a connection through most people's lives. And I'm curious to know how much AFL and sport has meant to you in terms of connection and what it means to mental health. And I suppose just the memories and the reminiscing, because I don't think it's talked about enough. I'm not too sure whether you think the same thing, but part of Scoreboard is to talk about community sport and local sport and the involvement you get. And just chatting to you, you've lit up a little bit about talking about your junior areas. I'm curious about your thoughts on it all.
Yeah, mate, definitely. I couldn't be a bigger advocate for community sport, and especially my home club. They did a lot for me, and I wouldn't be here without them, like, by no means. But I think you're so right. There is such a community in that sporting club in itself, and you see the guys there that played back in the 1950s that are still at the footy club, sitting around having a beer. And then all the young guys coming through, the under-17s won the grand final back home this year, and those guys that hadn't been in the club in years there to watch them. So for mental health, mate, for that social aspect, I think it's community football or community sport in general is an amazing thing.
And then touching on that in terms of, I've got two questions to finish up here. One is some advice for some young kids out there that want to be like you and play in the AFL, and their dream, they watch it week on week and they're like, love the stats, and some advice to them.
I think the biggest thing is not to take it too seriously too early. I think you do have to make decisions, and you have to train really, really hard, and you've got to make sure that you want it to get to this place. However, you do need to enjoy that aspect of things, that social side, enjoy playing with your mates, and not forget that you do love the sport. I speak to a lot of young guys now that are 17 that are going through the academy system that tell me that they're training too much and they're falling out of love with the game. And to hear that at that age is really hard, because for me at that age I loved it so dearly. So one thing is to, as much as you need to commit and you need to train hard and you need to make sure you want it is to make sure that you're still enjoying it for what it is, and that's the game of football.
And then on contrary to that, what's some advice that maybe some coaches or you've thought about in your head that maybe you go, actually, if I didn't do that, or if I didn't, like, don't go down this path? Or is there something where you've maybe seen some people go by that think they're going to be AFL players that end up don't be, and maybe they've gone in different directions?
Yeah, I think there's a few pieces there. I think one thing is, I guess, you see a lot of young guys that are super talented come through and they don't make it because they don't train hard, or they do think that it's just going to fall in their lap. So one piece of advice is to be grateful for the situation you're in. And if you're a gun junior, to be grateful for that, but then understand as well that there's work that comes with that. It's not just going to fall in your lap. And I think another thing is that you can't, like, it's not so much about not playing up. It's more about understanding that there is bigger fish to fry in some situations. And just because your local club is where you want to be, understanding that you might not be able to train 3 times a week at your local club and 2 times a week at the academy, because that's when you do burn out. So I do think you need to understand about where your time is best put, and not to, I guess, burn the candle at both ends in that sense.
Yeah, and then from your point of view in regards to, I mean, we don't want to talk about life after footy, but we should talk life after footy.
Maybe.
Your thoughts outside of sport, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where I'm going to end up. I've nearly finished a Bachelor of Psychological Sciences. I've got a couple of subjects left there, and that'll be done me for the year. And then whether I progress that into either a sports psych degree or into my clinical psych is an area I'm going to look at. And then on top of that, I'm going to do a few certificates in project management and some business administration stuff as well, just to tie up a few little, I guess, loose ends in that regard, and see where it leads me, mate.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then from the study point of view, is there some things you come across and you're like, oh, that makes sense, or maybe I should apply that into my life, some of the studies that you do?
Mate, there's a lot. I think there's a lot about, I guess, social mental health and social connection that I really enjoyed this year. The social diversity and how that influences someone. That was something really interesting. I was actually able to implement a little bit and understand, I guess, in a sense, why I felt the way I did. But mate, it is interesting studying psychology and having the sports psych at the club. He's a superstar. Having him at the club too to bounce some ideas off has been awesome.
Matt Flynn, thank you so much for being on Scoreboard, the podcast today, and having a chat about a glimpse of your life, some ups and downs and the highs and everything in between. I really do appreciate you coming on, and congratulations on a great 2025 season, and all the best for 2026 for you and the team as well. I look forward to catching up and supporting where I can.
Thank you very much, Chris. I've loved being here.
This has been another episode of Scoreboard with Chris Titley. Go back and check out some of the other episodes you might have missed.